What's up, guys? So, I'm actually coming up with two videos today, which is good, fun, something different. So, what I want to focus on right now is gamification of language. I think that is a huge thing that we see in our day to day more, and it's something that's really interesting to analyze. Of course, language is so important because language is how we can represent an idea in a form that another person can also interpret and therefore understand. So, language is such a key medium in how we facilitate the passing on of ideas onto one another. Now, I was inspired by this by watching the recent Kneecap interview on Novara Media, and he was talking about that. He was talking on the algorithm and how on the algorithms in social media space, in cyberspace, we don't have good interactions. We don't use nice language to each other, right? You typically don't see places on the internet where people are having discussions that are productive or have any real depth to it. It's like this victimhood competition where people are trying to one up each other, and there's a lot about wanting to be right and prove points in the way people talk on when they speak on the internet. And because we're spending so much time in the digital space, where that is then reflecting in how we actually communicate with language in the real world. Now, what I was thinking of with respect to gamification specifically of language is that the way in which we talk to one another and the vernacular that we use is changing. So we will refer to people as NPCs, for example, which plays in to how we interact within the cyberspace, whereby we're not physically in front of the person. We've had the social interaction changed so that it's removed the actual player, and you're interacting with the words of another player, or say photos. The the kneecap guy refers to the social media as being like massively multiplayer online RPGs, but they're text based, right? So we interact with each other on those games through text typically, because that's what a comment section is, right? So, but when you're doing that, it's so abstract from actually interacting with another human being. Now, we see this then in how we refer to each other in the real world, IRL versus cyberspace. The funny thing with that is to try and distinguish the two, because we are all actually experiencing being in cyberspace within our real lives. It's still part of our experience. So therefore, as we spend more time in the digital spaces, we find ourselves changing our vernacular. Okay, back to NPCs. That terminology is being used in a way that really does dehumanize the other person quite a bit. I think there's two ways in which that particular word is used. One element of it is that I'm interacting with NPC, as in this person maybe a store clerk or something, and the interaction doesn't go outside of a small range of inputs, much like playing a video game where you have a few choices of what to say, and then there's basic dialogue like, "Oh, hey, can I just grab this? Thanks." Sometimes you don't even have that much interaction nowadays. I done well get things from vendors who have no ability to speak English, but there's still a capacity to understand the interaction, right? So there's an NPC in that element, and then there's another element which the word NPC is used, and I believe that's where people believe they're in some type of knowledge of the state of the world, which the other person can't see, and then you're just dismissing the other person, right? Even though they, what you perceive their reality to be as not right, they are still invariably right within their own mind. Um, yeah, but the NPC is a way of like dehumanizing the other person. I think another part of vernacular that's changed is referring to things as like the matrix, simulation. Especially, I think the prevalence of the simulation theory increased a lot thanks to Elon Musk, who obviously was a huge proponent of the simulation theory. He's the first person that I remember speaking about it in the mainstream. Anyone got any other ideas? Let me know. Yeah, and we because we are spending more time in the digital realm, even though we're not like physically floating around in a matrix, we're still in the digital matrix comprised of all the algorithms, right? And that's putting us in this collective matrix or simulation. At least that's a simulation because that grows and evolves with us. Because as much as you can blame the tech CEOs or whatever, as people like to do, we are still interacting with the applications. So we're the ones that ultimately have control of where it's going, right? But, like, of course, there's a degree that we've been hijacked in they've wanted to make the apps addictive, but we still interact with them at the end of the day. It's our life. We are inputting our time into these things, which is growing the data, right? And growing the reflection of our collective consciousness that is this digital place. And it's crazy because you'll see people speak in ways that I don't feel like people really would ever if they were face to face with a person. But because things occur digitally, it's like the Wild West. So yeah, gamification, some words. NPC, matrix, simulation. Then of course there's just memes. And now when we refer to some type of event or any sort of like reference to something, anything with an underlying reference is kind of referred to as a meme now. You know, meme is not set as like images per se. I remember, say, if you were wanting to find memes, you'd go on 9gag about 10 years ago, and it was very much this meme format, like the big text, you know. Whereas now, there's videos that can be memes, anything can be memes. It's just putting some type of twist to whatever's being seen or even heard. And then people that are in the know find that funny, right? So memes are just jokes, really. And they can take all types of context. But an interesting thing is, if the meme's been done, then it's hard to virtue signal on the meme. And then things sort of take this dichotomy on the internet of being like either a meme or being represented like people virtue signaling. It's hard for people to find this sort of middle ground to have discussions. And yeah, that's just something that I've noticed. And I think we'll continue to use more words that people also get off the internet. You know? another word similar to NPC. People call each other bots. They'll say people are bots. You know, that's definitely something that I've picked up. Even sometimes people understand programming more, and how much like computers, we are running off a bunch of scripts which we've created for ourselves within our life, which are our patterns. And yeah, we're becoming, I don't know, but more people seem to be aware of programming, and then how you work with the programming to then change your ideas and understandings of yourself to then evolve as a human. You know, but to only do that is through being aware of programming. And I find, yeah, it's amazing how well this like gaming language can actually be applied to day-to-day life. But as we continue to spend more time in digital spaces, essentially playing together in this multiplayer realm, we all will continue to use more and more of this gamified language. And I think it will continue to be more relevant as we spend more time on the internet. Simple as that. Thanks.